A farmer understands the needs of every season, and so do Farm Bureau members. When Arkansas families needed electricity, our members brought it. Reliable roads, our members built them. Agricultural education, our members provided. Today's members may not live on a farm, but their connections are as close as ever. So when that difficult season comes, no member has to face it alone. For every season, Arkansas Farm Bureau. Join today.
Welcome back to Talk Business and Politics, and good morning. I'm Scott Inman, filling in for Roby on the Roundtable this morning because Roby is furiously tallying the last-minute selections in the surveys that he will release, the polls, the new polling numbers that he'll have before the end of this show. We think that's what he's doing, right? I'm joined by Janelle Lilley from KATV and Elicia Dover from KATV in today's Roundtable. And what we're going to do is spend the next 10 minutes or so talking about recapping the senatorial debate that was held in Northwest Arkansas last Tuesday between Tom Cotton and Senator Mark Pryor. You were there on site.
I was in the audience.
I got to be a part of the panel, and Elicia was watching at home on TV and really monitoring what was going on social media.
I was on my couch on Twitter, probably having a better time than either one of you.
Yes, maybe so. It was probably a little more lively because they were very polite in Fayetteville.
Three different perspectives there, on stage, in the audience, and at home. So.
Yeah, and we know perception is so much of this debate process. So let's start there. What were your impressions? What did the impressions from the audience tell you on Tuesday night?
They were so quiet. I mean, it was just a very thoughtful audience. I didn't see a lot of agreement, head nodding with one candidate or the next. It seemed like they were just there to listen, honestly. And I was paying very close attention to that in particular. I wanted to see the audience reaction to any of the hot topic issues, hot button issues, and I just didn't see a lot of it. Everyone was very calm, very quiet, no clapping, no noise of any kind. And then when it was over, they just kind of filed out of the room.
They were maybe fearful because the rules did state no participation, no applause, and there was very little.
Officers roaming the debate hall. Yeah. Everyone was a little bit on edge to get kicked out of that venue, for sure.
On the panel, I did take a moment during some of the answers as well to look out at the faces of the audience, and we can tell you demographically it probably fit the makeup of the electorate, young and old, all across racial lines, and they really were just listening. You couldn't really draw much of a conclusion based on their head nods or head shakes because there really weren't many. How about social media, though?
Well, certainly. I mean, I was watching on my couch actually with an undecided voter, so that was interesting. Who knows nothing about politics? So it was kind of interesting to get that perspective as well. But on Twitter, I would say that there were a lot of people chiming in who aren't really politics watchers, but this time they were tuning into the debate. They were tweeting about it. They were actively commenting on everything that was going on. But one thing in particular really lit up Twitter, which we'll talk about in a little bit, which was when both candidates defined the middle class. Okay. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, and this was really what this debate was for, if you think about it. Statewide television is their one chance to appeal to the people that maybe somehow haven't been paying attention through the barrage of campaign ads, or maybe just have simply been confused by them. And that's what we attempted to do, I think, with the questioning, and we're going to let you hear pieces of that in case you did miss the debate and did not get the chance to see it on Tuesday. I got the chance to ask a couple of healthcare questions, and the first one was about Walmart canceling health insurance for their part-time workers and also announcing just a week and a half ago that they were going to raise the premiums for their full-time workers too as a result of more workers coming on board. It's a consequence that's been talked about a lot with the healthcare law. And of course, I posed that question to Senator Pryor.
Let me say what I would tell the Walmart employees here in Arkansas is they now have an option, and that is they have the private option. They can get private insurance because the state legislature, Democrats and Republicans, came together to put together the private option. And one of the things I want to also mention when it comes to the Affordable Care Act is that before this law passed, people in Arkansas with pre-existing conditions could be and were routinely denied access to coverage because they had a pre-existing condition. And, they were one medical emergency away from bankruptcy. Now, back then, the insurance companies had all the power. And what we needed to do is get patients back in charge of their health care. Now, I do want to make changes in the law. I do, and I've already supported many of those. But I don't want to go back to those days. I think that would be a mistake to go back to those days.
Mr. Cotton, 60 seconds.
Those workers at Walmart lost their insurance and their premiums went up because of Obamacare. because Mark Pryor cast a deciding vote for Obamacare. This was not an unintended consequence of the law. This was very much the intended consequence of Obamacare, which is government-run health care. They want people out of private insurance and onto government insurance. Those workers at places like Walmart or Home Depot or so many other companies don't want an option. They want their health insurance. Mark Pryor and Barack Obama promised them that if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. And they didn't keep that promise. And now, like so many other Arkansans, they're feeling the pain and the stress of losing their insurance, trying to find a better option, when they had an exact plan that suited their needs.
Now, on balance, I also asked Republican Congressman Cotton after that about the $200,000 on the health care exchange, because that's really the framework of this argument. The businesses, can they afford it? And of course, the people who now have insurance that didn't, what happens to them? This is really a clear difference between these two candidates.
And I thought it was a great question, honestly, Scott, because it really drove home what real Arkansans are going to be experiencing on a regular basis. The folks who are on the private option and those who are Walmart workers based in Arkansas who are losing their health care insurance. Overall, I felt that Tom Cotton definitely stuck to his talking points on that.
He sure did.
They were almost exact sentences that I've heard him say before. But as far as the explanation that Senator Pryor gave, it was a little bit more extensive than I think I had heard him speak about. And of course, he had 2 minutes to respond to a question where normally we give him a 20-second soundbite. So
certainly. And one thing he definitely mentioned, and he's talked about this before, even with me, was his cancer and the fact that he himself has battled the insurance companies. So I think throwing in that part about pre-existing conditions, could be speaking to a lot of people who now don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. Okay, and another clear difference is on Congressman Cotton's vote on the Farm Bill. Senator Pryor has hit the congressman over a lot of his votes, but really none quite as powerful and as frequent as Congressman Cotton's vote against the Farm Bill. He was the only member of the Arkansas delegation to do so, and he was asked why he voted against it.
Why did you vote against the Farm Bill?
I voted for a real farm bill, and I voted for a food stamp reform bill. Food stamps have been a part of the Farm Bill for decades. It's the kind of typical Washington politics you always see. One constituency working together with another one for a deal that in the end wasn't good for Arkansas farmers. I grew up on a farm in Yell County, working on it from the time I turned 5 years old. My dad taught me, you can't spend more money than you take in. And we're $18 trillion in debt. The food stamp bill, which is what I would call the Farm Bill, is almost $1 trillion of new spending. Arkansas farmers can only expect to get 0.5% of the return on that bill, and 75% of Arkansas farmers get no benefit from it. What we need is a real farm bill that focuses on the needs of farmers, and I supported that. And a food stamp reform bill that gets people the food when they need it, but also eliminates the waste and the abuse and the institutionalized fraud you see in some states like Massachusetts and Illinois. Mark Pryor insists on doing things the old way, and if you like the status quo, then Mark Pryor and Barack Obama are on your side.
All right, Mr. Pryor, you didn't vote against the Farm Bill. You voted for the Farm Bill, but the same question in terms of that context is to you.
Yes, and one of the reasons I did vote for it, as well as all the other members of the Arkansas delegation, except for Congressman Cotton, is because we did $8 billion in food stamp reform. There was fraud. We addressed $8 billion in this bill. Let me say this. This is an example of how Congressman Cotton says one thing here in Arkansas, he's for a farm bill, but does another in Washington. He voted against it. He was the only member of the Arkansas delegation to do that. And if you want one insight into why, you can go online and there's an audio tape. There's an audio tape where he's out at a luxury resort in California with his billionaire backers, and as they are introducing him, they say that he has voted against the Farm Bill and that is a vote against Arkansas, and you hear this huge ovation. That applause is still ringing in his ears. That's who he's listening to. Ladies and gentlemen, he's not listening to you. He's listening to his mega donors, the ones that are trying to buy this election for him.
Now, it could be a problematic vote for Cotton, but did he do a good enough job of explaining why he voted against the Farm Bill? That's the question.
Well, and I think in that instance, you heard Senator Pryor take something that he had felt very strongly about, something that he's campaigned a lot against Representative Cotton with, and just reiterate that and then transition it to this talking point of the billionaires, which he reiterated several times throughout the debate.
Big theme, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Congressman Cotton, when I heard his answer, it was like the commercial turned on that we've all seen. It was exactly almost the words of the commercial. So maybe he did stick to what he was trying to say, but again, it's same talking points we've heard.
All right, one more topic, and it's the one you said was the hot button issue
On
on
Twitter.
the middle class, because the question was, what is your definition of the middle class?
Gentlemen, you both will have a 30-second rebuttal here. I'm not sure if I've heard a definition from either one of you of what you see as the middle class. I've heard some illustrations, but I'd like a definition.
Well, again, I'd say probably up to 200,000. There's different definitions, but that's my working definition. I talked about the American-made jobs package that I have. The very first section of that is to repeal that ridiculous, inexcusable provision in the tax code where big corporations get a tax deduction for shipping jobs overseas. I want to repeal that. That's the first section of the bill. Congressman Cotton, however, has taken a pledge with these mega donors, these out-of-state billionaires, to not do that. I disagree.
All right, Congressman Cotton.
Senator Pryor must be the one who's hanging around with out-of-state billionaires if he thinks $200,000 in Arkansas is the middle class. You know, I think about a typical household in Arkansas makes about $40,000 a year. Unfortunately, that's down by almost 5% over the last 6 years because of the Obama-Pryor economy. They keep raising taxes on businesses, on individuals. That's what's driving jobs overseas. That's what's making it harder for Arkansans to get good, high-paying jobs right here in Arkansas. And that's what we've got to stop.
Now, the Pryor camp has obviously said the $200,000 was kind of based on the tax raising threshold that Obama wanted to raise taxes on, but certainly it was a moment for Tom Cotton.
You know, in the original answer, it was about 150,000, and then in the rebuttal, Senator Pryor said about 200,000. Then you saw the whole audience just kind of shift just a little bit. You know, ears perked up listening to it, and then moments later, I got a nice little email with a YouTube clip of that already in my inbox.
Instantly.
Instant. It was
on
probably
Twitter, too.
3 minutes later. That clip was already on YouTube.
Yeah, and regardless of what he meant by that comment, the way it was received by the public, man, Twitter just lit up immediately and was saying, I wish I was middle class, I wish I was middle class, and that was the tweet that we saw over and over.
Yeah, when we ask those questions, we wonder sometimes why they don't specifically answer. That may be why, because if they get off script too much, you never know what the Twitter sphere, what do you call it? Twitter sphere or the YouTube
But
happens.
on the reverse, we didn't get a clear answer from Representative Cotton as far as
That's
an
true.
actual number.
Yeah.
So that, you know, to each his own, I guess.
Thanks to Elicia Dover and Janelle Lilley. Guys, thanks
Lilley.
very much. After this word from our sponsors, Roby returns with new poll results. Talk business and politics in Hendrix College, surveying nearly 2,000 voters for their opinions on the governor's race, Senate race, and congressional races, and even ballot issues. Roby has some of the results when we come back.